You know, I was gonna say that I can't believe this, but I can believe this. And I'm honestly just amazed that I have to go through this all over again with a completely new game. Because I've said before that this is Dragon Ball FighterZ all over again, but this is really Dragon Ball FighterZ all over again, man. You see the title, you know what we're here to talk about today. Tekken 8 Season 2, man. It's not good. It's not good, and the community is not happy about it. Not even a little bit, bro. As I'm sure most of you know, yesterday I posted a video that was like kind of a rant, ramble, whatever, just getting a bunch of thoughts off my chest. And basically saying that like it doesn't feel like most, if any, modern fighting games are really catering towards fighting game players. They're really trying to target people who don't normally play fighting games, so that way they can expand the genre and sell more copies and make more money because they're a business and that's what they do, which I understand to some extent. That video wasn't about Tekken 8 specifically, but obviously we talked a lot about Tekken 8 in that video because it's relevant, it's current, I play the game, whatever in season 2 and all that Tekken talk and stuff. I recorded that video before the patch, before the game was even on maintenance, let alone before we got the patch notes and the actual update itself. Well, 2 nights ago we got the patch, and to say that it has the entire community in complete and utter shambles would probably be an understatement. I don't think I've really seen anybody at all who was happy with the current state of the game, with any of these changes. I've seen maybe a couple people still trying to be somewhat optimistic, like, oh, there's going to be more patches and they surely can't leave it this way, and people were coping so hard that they were saying, hey, maybe this is just some really elaborate April Fool's joke. Well, it's April 2nd now and it's still here, and I never subscribed to that idea in the first place, because to put that amount of resources, time, effort, energy, and manpower into a joke that elaborate, I just don't really see that. But you know, I made a tweet, and let's take a look at that tweet. And it reads, I know the FGC is notoriously full of doomers, guilty as charged, but this might be the most depressed, dejected, and miserable I've ever seen the community after a patch. And I still feel this way the next day because my timeline has not changed, the comment section has not changed, the streams I'm watching have not changed. People are not happy, bro. And I get it. I really do, because this just isn't what anybody was asking for. And I can already see some people are going to say things like, oh, well, if you don't like the game, then just don't play it, or it's not that big of a deal, or it's only the first day, you've got to give it more time, and there's going to be more patches, and etc. and etc. I feel like some of those comments are a bit reductive and not really understanding. I think there's a lot of nuance and context that people just completely neglect, ignore, don't seem to understand. I also think there's obviously a lot of people out there who can clearly see the nature of the game and the notes and the changes that they made, and like, I don't think it takes a genius to kind of figure out that this isn't best for the health of the game or the health of a lot of the players who currently play the game, especially when it comes to the high level. It actually reminds me of a conversation that I had with Majin Obama that we could take a look at, and this was a few days ago. This was after the Tekken talk, when people were very, very upset and expressing that all over Twitter. And he said, fighting game players, when they play something else and realize for the first time that they don't have to be defined as a player by their experience in a single franchise, especially when a game or series or publisher moves in a different direction that does not agree with them. And so I had a little bit of a back and forth with him, just because I know who Majin Obama is, and I know he don't really mean anything too crazy with his tweet, but I saw a lot of tweets like this and some that were far more malicious or negative. And it kind of feeds into that like reductive mindset that I was talking about. And so, you know, I kind of gave him my piece and everything like that. And basically I was like, you know, I think it's a lot deeper than that. There are people who have, you know, a lot of investment in these series and in these games, whether it's because, you know, they create content on the game and it's a big part of their livelihood, like myself, or like a FeedEX, for example, or they're a sponsored player or team or esports team, organization, or whatever, like whether you're Joka or Ni or Arslan, or an organization who has sponsored a player to play Tekken, and now your players don't like the game or don't want to play the game. You know, it's really easy to just say, hey, go play something else, or if you like the old game better, go play the old game. But like I said in here, it's like, when the old game is old and you got to go join a Discord of 50 people and hope that somebody's available for you to play the game online, yeah, that's, you know what I'm saying, easier said than done. And the vast majority of people are not going to do that, right? And I want to say, I don't think people are really wrong for being upset when the latest installment in the title they play starts going in a disagreeable direction. But I also don't blame them for continuing to play, because a lot of people will be like, well, you don't have to play the game anymore, like you're going to play it anyway. And it's like, bro, you don't understand that when you have a certain level of investment, whether it's because you've been playing this franchise since you were 5 years old, because you're a sponsored player, because you're a creator, because you do this for a job or a living, it's like, I want to like the game. We all want to like the game. Very few people actually want to see the game fail. I'm sure some morons out there do feel like that, but nobody wants to see the game fail. You want to like it. You want to enjoy it. It's just hard to when it's going in a direction that you don't agree with. And you want to be like, well, maybe it isn't for me, but it's not that simple for everybody. Obviously, this kind of sentiment or feeling or this concept applies to a lot of people all over the world in all different types of situations. Again, because we're on the internet, and I feel like if I don't acknowledge certain things or point something out first, someone else is going to inevitably be in the comments on some, well, actually, or what about? And again, just kind of detract from the point. There are people in far worse situations, okay? I understand that it is a privilege to make a living off of a video game, or to even just be able to enjoy a video game casually for fun or for leisurely activities. But part of my point was that, like, you know, if you're somebody who depends on this game for your livelihood, or you play this game for a living, it really sucks for the game to be in a state that you find pretty bad or really disagreeable, to the point where it's taking a toll on like your mental health, or it's stressing you out, or you're just having a really, really bad time. There are people in positions way worse in life where they wake up every single day, go to a job that they don't hate, that's labor intensive or whatever, just to put food on the table, keep a roof over their head, whatever the case may be, support their family. That's not lost on me, okay? I understand that, but we don't have to bring that up because we are talking about video games. So it's not trying to compare like, woe is me. I get it, it's a first world problem. And again, I bring this up and acknowledge this because if I don't, somebody in the comments will, you know what I'm saying? But I understand that, but I also don't think that understanding the relationship dynamic that Majid Obama mentioned makes it any easier of a pill to swallow. And I gave an example, like if you're in a toxic relationship, you know that you got to leave, but there's other factors at play, and so on and so forth. And he was like, yeah, I get where you're coming from, and I can see how people on Twitter are being very reductive. And generally speaking, it feels very, very difficult to have conversations about really anything on the internet these days, but especially something like this, or including something like this, because it just feels like there's no nuance on the internet anymore. If there ever was, but maybe even less now, because people are just like willfully ignorant. They ignore certain things. They bring up stuff that doesn't matter at all, you know what I'm saying, that are relevant to the conversation. They fabricate things to fit their narrative or justify their point or their perspective. And it's just like really exhausting and draining, but it's something that falls on both sides, right? Because on one hand, you have people who are like extremely negative and are just like, you know, not being constructive at all. But there are people out there who are, you know, good natured and whatever. They have honest intentions, and they are being very constructive in their criticism, and they are trying to give the right kind of feedback, and they are being polite when they're speaking to the developers or the social media managers and everything like that. But if you express any sort of negativity or disappointment, then you just get brushed off or labeled as a doomer by like the general public. I've been seeing so many people on Twitter and in Twitch that's been like, everyone's just such a doomer. You're all dooming. Why is everybody just dooming? It's not just like, you think they're doing it for their health, because they're not. Now, granted, there has been a fair amount of dooming as well as constructive feedback, and we can actually take a look at that if we go over to some tweets that I bookmarked, because the community has been making their voice heard on Twitter, if nothing else. And you can get a pretty good idea of how everyone's feeling. Here we have a tweet from a player named Skylar who says, just a few days ago, I think I'm in love with Tekken. And then yesterday says, I think we should start seeing other people, obviously expressing disappointment with it. And here we have a tweet from Joka. I think this is a very fair, valid critique of what's going on. He's given the patch a good, like actual shot, you know what I'm saying? Granted, it's only been a day, but I think you can start to form opinions on a lot of this stuff without having sat with it for a year or so, right? But Joka, as you guys should know, is one of the best players in the world. He is arguably the best player in all of Europe, and probably the best player in the UK at the very least. And he grinded the game all day long after the patch, and actually made it to God of Destruction rank, and is the first person to do that in Season 2. And he says, I have been optimistic about this game and the bouncing direction since release, but it feels like enough is enough, and we've definitely reached that point. This does not feel like Tekken at all. Characters getting buffed even in the slightest is not the way, along with more stance-based transitions where 50-50 situations are enhanced. Some of the new moves added are insane with little to no counterplay, characters getting their weaknesses patched, and identities being removed by homogenization is lazy balancing. Oki being gutted and Heat just getting buffed makes no sense. Combo damage is too much across the whole roster. I definitely think the sidesteps are better, but does that really matter when moves exist with crazy tracking and hitboxes? Chip damage is still excessive, with most Heat smashes remaining the same. Removing strategy in favor of more 50-50 situations isn't interesting gameplay and is moving away from the foundation of Tekken. Where are the defensive options that were mentioned? Then here you can see that he's made it to God of Destruction. So, you know, he's one of those people who was trying to be optimistic and open-minded and say, hey, I'm going to wait to play for myself and see the patch notes. Well, the notes came out. They were extremely disappointing, with characters just getting buffed sky high, even higher than they already were, including top tiers like Dragunov and Jin and Yoshimitsu, who got even better than they already were. They got small nerfs and then huge buffs. So it's like the buffs far outweighed the nerfs. But he's not the only one. Like here, I have plenty of tweets from a number of players. Kokuma saying, I controlled myself not being upset so hard today, can't play anymore, want to say so many bad words, tired of everything. Kuro 10, like no need to learn any matchup, just learn to randomly guard and crouch guard. Viscant old school Marvel and Street Fighter player. I don't think I've ever seen a reaction to a patch like this one ever before in any game. Arslan Ash, I gotta say, we were so ungrateful to season 1, obviously expressing, and Arslan Ash is somebody who was vocal about not thinking that Tekken 8 was that great or really enjoying season 1. Little did he know how much worse it was gonna get, and that's basically what he's saying, is like, if only I had known it was gonna get so much worse, I would have, you know, appreciated season 1 more. Kudons, this one's self-explanatory, legendary Korean player. Pepper Beef Too Spicy, this is not the Tekken I grew up with. Fear of Silence, this is the first time in a while I went to bed sad and woke up sad. To the gym I go. And it's like players of all level, whether it's content creators, streamers, old school players, new school players, you're seeing everyone express their dissatisfaction. Yagami, the best Reina player in the world, mashing 8. Farzine, what have they done in season 2? This is disgusting. Malik Ash, this game is done and I have no hope. And again, like, some of this is dooming. Some people have been constructive, but this is just people's impressions of the patch and how they're feeling right now on the game. The death of all that was interesting. This has to be an April Fool's joke. Glaciating one of the high-level NA players. This is legitimately the worst Tekken I've ever played, and you guys mostly know how I feel about Tekken 7. Just Sandy saying he doesn't know if he's going to continue playing Tekken if it stays this way. Knee saying that there's no hope. And Gerlanda is somebody who was trying to be constructive. I still have to find a single person that has something positive to say about the Tekken talk. I just hope what we did not see is far better than what we saw. I don't like early judgments. I still have hope. And then, yeah, and he actually made a couple of tweets. I don't know if I can find them very quickly, but he had some like really positive, like constructive tweets he was trying to make. I found the tweet that I was looking for, and in this tweet, he tweets directly at Harada and says he gives his, his own opinion and his feedback on the game. And you know what, I think it's worth reading, so we'll go through it. In my opinion, the worst problem with the game is that it tries to make every interaction memorable. What do I mean? I might be wrong, but I got the feeling the team is trying to make every single interaction of the game full of tension in order to be able to create more memorable moments in the game due to high risk and reward involved in such decision. I feel like the team thinks rightfully that the Tekken 7 sold well also because it was able to create a lot of hype and viral moments and wanted to capitalize on it. And then give some examples. What maybe is not understood is that these moments were special because they did not happen often. To be special, these moments need to build up tensions. If we try to multiply these moments, automatically there will be less tension, and as a consequence, they don't become good memories. They are special because they are seldom. If you make them easier to happen, they will lose their uniqueness and become instead stressful without any rewards. This is the first game where if I win, I don't feel joy of outsmarting my opponent, I just feel lucky I guessed correct. But then I should just play a coin flip and it would be the same thing. The other thing I want to mention is a failure in coherence when it comes to communication. If you announce you want to improve defense and 24 hours later in the Tekken talk, you show people losing life when skipping throws or when breaking throws, as well as homing throws and plus on block 60 damage lows like what Anna has, which by the way, there was counterplay to the low. It wasn't as bad as we originally thought, so waiting and seeing was fair on that particular move. But announcing you're buffing June's offense 50-50 because defense works versus her, it's very easy for people to be worried about that the team is not leading in the direction that they should. And yeah, it's very apparent that the game did not go in a direction that most players were hoping for and find agreeable. And you know, I've seen some people say, well, the game was successful for a reason, it's popular for a reason. Mind you, it's currently getting review bombed for the third time since it's been released, and this might be the worst one yet. The first time was because of, you know, the Tekken shop and everything like that, and it happened again with the Heihachi DLC and the the release of the Genmaji Temple stage, and how it was a paid stage and not a free stage included with the season pass. I believe also around that time, that might have been when that Chinese player in the TWT was disqualified or whatever, and that might have had some influence as well. Don't quote me on that one, I don't remember for sure. And now with this whole season 2 update, and it's definitely not looking good for players who wanted to see the game get toned down a little bit, because it actually got ramped way up. So then the question is, well, where did it go wrong? And I would say that from the very start, a lot of people expressed not necessarily disinterest, but like disappointment in the game, or like maybe some contempt or, you know, displeasure, right? You have high level players like Knee and Arslan Ash who were notorious and very vocal about their lack of enjoyment in the game and how they felt it was like too simple, like way too oppressive, and you know, a little bit brainless and everything like that, and kind of missing Tekken 7. Not everybody shared that feeling, but it wasn't uncommon. I'll say though, I think even people like Arslan and Knee weren't necessarily upset that the game was offense focused, but just more so that it was so extreme. And I think a lot of people, myself included, would have enjoyed season 1 of Tekken 8 a lot more if it was still offense focused, but you just made it a little bit less extreme, you know, just dialed it back just a little bit more, make movement matter a little bit more, just take out a couple of the 50-50s, you know what I'm saying? You can still have strong moves and strings and mix-ups and everything like that, but just dial it back a little bit. Like we're at a 15, you know what I'm saying? Let's bring it back to maybe a 10, maybe an 8, you know what I'm saying? It's like Tekken 7 was extreme in the defensive compartment, and like people excuse me, backdashing and not interacting. And then Tekken 8 is just like mash, 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 swing, swing, swing constantly. And we knew coming into this game that it was going to be aggressive. They stressed that a lot leading up to the game's release and in the marketing, and every time they had a Tekken talk or trailer, whatever, like this game was going to be aggressive and offensive focused, and we knew that. And a lot of players were apprehensive about that and reluctant, you know, to get into it because of that promise and because of that statement, right? We knew the philosophy and people were hesitant. I was cautiously excited. I was like, hey, it could be cool, it could be fun, I don't know, we won't really know till we try. And it just feels like every time with Tekken 8 so far, when we've tried to be optimistic or cautious or give the benefit of the doubt or play the wait and see game, we've gotten burned every single time. And at some point you just have to be like, okay, well, it's not a matter of like, oh, let's wait and see what the next patch is like, or let's play it for a couple of months. It's like, bro, every single time something controversial has come up with Tekken 8 and we're like, oh, well, let's wait and see, the people who play the wait and see game have gotten burned. And regardless of how much they push the aggressive nature of the game, I don't think anyone could have seen it being this extreme. What makes it even worse though is that they talked about this themselves, right? If we go back to about a week and a half ago, this video got posted to the Evo FGC channel. Tekken 8 devs talk season 2 balance changes and more. And in this video, there are some direct quotes from Nakatsu, who's on the team with Michael Murray and Harada. They're all sitting here together, right? And they talked at length about Tekken 8, its aggressive nature and philosophy, and how they want the game to go direction wise. But then also they touched on defense, which got a lot of players excited. So if we take a look at this, right, I wrote down some direct quotes from this video that I want you guys to listen very closely to. So first of all, they acknowledged that Tekken is historically more defensive, but they wanted a fresher approach, which is why they kind of went in a more offensive direction. Not inherently a bad thing. Okay, we're going away from its defensive identity, but it could be cool, it could be fun. And then Nakatsu's quoted directly as saying, because offensive play is strong, it feels the game nature leans a little too much toward offense. On that part, I feel there's still much to be worked on. Direct quote exactly from Nakatsu in this video. Matter of fact, let's find the exact subtitles where he says this. And here it is. Matter of fact, let me hide my camera. So the direct quote right there. Skip ahead a few seconds. On that part, I feel there's still much to be worked on. And he said that they don't plan on straying from their aggressive philosophy, and they kind of stood on business when it comes to that a little bit. But he did acknowledge, and again, direct quote, because it was constraining for defensive players and the heat system made it easy to make matches pretty one-sided in terms of strategy, I feel we weren't able to balance the defensive aspects that well. They spoke a bit about Master Cup, and yeah, and talked about how they wanted to address this going into season 2. We don't intend to change the aggressive nature, but on the other hand, and then here's the quote, right? That's why for season 2, we'd like to focus on defense in terms of the lateral aspects of a 3D fighting game and the ease of defending when being attacked. And this statement right here is why so many players feel that their trust has been betrayed and that they were just completely and totally lied to. Because in season 2, the game was more offensive focused than ever before, with more stances, more forced 50-50s, insanely oppressive offense, sky-high combo damage, crazy tracking and homing moves that completely negate any improvements that they might have made to the sidesteps. And some players are expressing that the sidestep does feel noticeably better, but does it matter when you have all these crazy tracking moves, strings that autocorrect? They even fixed like off-axis launchers, not that that plays directly into that, but like plus on block homing moves that lead into 50-50s and stances. And it's just like, you know what I'm saying? They buffed nearly the entire roster in a way that makes it for like any weaknesses that characters might have had, and offense is stronger than ever before. They specifically said that while they don't want to stray from the aggressive nature of the game, they do want to focus on defense, and they didn't focus on it whatsoever. And Michael Murray and Harada and everybody was saying like, oh, you know, wait until you play the game, see it for yourself, try it out, then give us your feedback. Well, exactly what we thought was going to be the problem, what was going to happen, is exactly what happened once we did actually get the notes for ourselves and get our hands on the game for ourselves. There's less identity, less creativity, less player expression, and less counterplay to every character in the game. You know what I'm saying? They're stripping away layers of complexity and depth of this game with these changes that they have made. And that's why so many people are so upset and so outraged, because this is just not, it just doesn't feel like Tekken anymore. And it begs the question, like, who is this game for? Like I said, I made a video yesterday saying that it feels like the games these days are like catered toward people who aren't normally into fighting games. But like, I don't know who the target audience is. Like, I don't think it's just like, oh, it's like casual friendly, it's casual friendly, it's for the casuals, it's for the casuals, because like changes that they're making, changes that they've made don't make sense for casuals either. Because think about it like this, right? They wanted to focus very heavily on the positive feeling and the feedback you get from doing very, very well on offense, having your opponent be oppressed, doing high combo damage, forcing them into mix-ups, whatever. Okay, understandable to some extent. But Did they ever stop to consider how awful it feels to be on the receiving end of that? Did they ever stop to think for a moment that it feels really, really bad to get beat up and be in a one-sided situation and lose a lot? This is becoming a game where players are not even having fun when they're winning, let alone when they're losing. And you could say like, oh, when does it ever feel good to lose? Sometimes it does. Sometimes you lose and you're like, damn, that was a really good match. Or damn, I learned a lot. Let's run it back. I think I can win the next time, or at least I learned something that I can take with me into the next match. There's nothing like that now, or we're reducing the amount of that when it's like, okay, I got put in this guess situation out. It was a 50-50. I guessed wrong. I died. I didn't learn anything. There wasn't like any like, oh, good match. Like, oh, that was a really sick setup. You put me like, no, you did this string. It led into a +9 on block move that put me in a 50-50. I guessed wrong. I died. That's not, you know what I'm saying? It's not even, and it's ironic too, because I like stance characters. I like mix-up heavy characters. I play those in all types of games, right? And in all my fighting games, I always tend to play some character that can do stuff like that. But it's not cool when it's that easy to access and it's that simple and everybody is doing it. You know what I mean? It's ironic too, because Hwoarang got nerfed again in this patch, and he got some buffs. I don't think they compare nearly as much to the buffs that some other characters got, but he's historically a rush down stance mix-up character. But now that's what everybody in the game is doing. And it's ironic because when you think about it, right? If we're talking about the casual audience, what's one of the most hated characters casuals hate when learning Tekken, when getting into Tekken? What's one of the hardest matchups to learn? It's the Hwoarang matchup. Now everybody's Hwoarang on steroids. Everybody's a stance, rush down, mix up 50-50 character. +9 on block, homing plus on block move into stance, into guess for your life. You know what I'm saying? Everyone's doing 100 damage combos and heat dash and rage arts, and it's just like, yo, like when is enough? Like how extreme does it have to be? Because the thing is, like, as you continue to improve offense, it's getting to a point where it's not just aggressive, it's oppressive, and it's not, there's no counterplay, there's a lack of defensive options, and it's just not fun to play against. It's not fun for the high level, and it's damn sure not fun for the low level when they're just getting destroyed constantly. So really, who is this for? I don't get it. And I said it before, like, yo, the game is just turning into everyone is Hwoarang except they're way better than him at what he used to do that everybody hated. And some people ain't really want to hear that from me, because I play the characters like, oh bro, shut up, you're a Hwoarang player. Oh, can't handle your own medicine, huh? It's not so fun when everybody else is doing it. And like, no, it's not as fun when everyone else is doing it. Part of what made him so cool is that he was the one doing it. Like, I just felt like there was a certain level of fluidity and like execution and technicality with the character and everything like that. But when you're just doing, I did running 3 and now I'm +9 on block and in stance, here's hold this 50-50 that you can't sidestep because I have a homing move that's a heat engager, and then if you stand up high, I have this move that like breaks your guard, or is another plus on block move, or you know what I mean? It's like where's the nuance there? Where's the counterplay? Where's the execution? Where's the depth? Where's the complexity? Where's anything at all other than guess? They're removing the identity from so many characters by covering up their weaknesses, right? Part of what makes a character who they are is that they have weaknesses. Hwoarang is decently linear. You can step him pretty well. He also is very susceptible to like jabs and down jabs, right? Even though he can feel very oppressive, he had weaknesses. There was counterplay, right? There's not a lot of counterplay to some of these characters now. And the characters that previously had counterplay, that counterplay is being removed by them getting new moves and new situations that cover those weaknesses. And again, what makes it ironic is that the defensive strategies and techniques that acted as counterplay to some of these options weren't being performed by intermediate or low level players. Some of that stuff was tech that you'd only see at a high level. Like, oh, I have to sidestep duck here in order to beat this move from Kazuya, because if I don't, then I'm forced into the situation and it's easy for him, you know what I'm saying? And then the Kazuya player's like, okay, well, I have to adjust with a wave dash here and then do my electric in order to continue my pressure, whatever. That's something you're only seeing at a high level. Low level players, they're just gonna eat the mix up because they don't know any better, right? They don't have the matchup knowledge. They don't have the defensive execution and the awareness and situational awareness. So when you buff these characters, right, to cover up their weaknesses, it doesn't matter at a low to intermediate level because they didn't know any better anyway, and they're just eating this offense already regardless. The offense is already strong, it's already working. The counterplay and the weaknesses that they have aren't nearly as apparent as they are at a higher level. You know what I'm saying? So all you're doing is creating a more toxic situation and archetype, or like, you know, dynamic at a higher level when players are already expressing that they don't find the current state of the game interesting or fun, and that it's very stressful and very taxing and very toxic and just too oppressive. So I don't get it, man. Like I really don't get it. Not to mention that this patch also introduced like a bunch of new bugs and glitches and like unblockable situations and some really weird stuff that like they definitely need to fix, and there will be another patch. I think it's very unrealistic and unlikely that they're going to be able to fix a lot of what they've broken with this in time for the World Tour, because there's just so much. And I've seen some people say like they should just straight revert it back. Like I think I've seen a lot of people say that like dead ass just go back to season 1 and start over, but again, I think that's very unrealistic. I don't think that's going to happen. And then on top of it all, the responses from the team on Twitter when it comes to like Michael Murray and Harada and Nakatsu, well, actually, I guess I can only say I've seen stuff from Michael Murray recently. I haven't really gone out of my way to Harada and Nakatsu's accounts to see if they're responding to people. But generally speaking, when all of them do it, and lately when Murray has done it the last couple of days, they kind of tend to respond to the vocal minority, the people who are not being very constructive, the people who are being negative or very ignorant and shallow in their responses and their criticism and everything like that, that don't really have much to offer. And again, you have to consider all different skill levels and perspectives and everything like that. But it feels like there's a lot of people out there who are trying their best to be earnest and honest and good natured and give very valid constructive feedback and criticism, and then it just kind of gets completely ignored. And look, check me out, right? As a creator, as somebody with my own platform who puts myself in front of the camera on a regular basis, I completely and totally understand that there's always going to be a vocal minority that stands out, and it's very hard to not engage with the people who are being negative and loud and stupid and ignorant, and you tend to do it from time to time. I get it, but that doesn't mean that you can also just ignore everyone who's being sincere. You know what I mean? Like, you have to at some point acknowledge the people who are supporting you, who do love you, like you, whatever, are saying good things or are giving you genuine constructive criticism, because it does exist and it is out there. And I don't feel like that happens nearly as much as it does them responding to the negativity. So yeah, all that being said, a lot of people are not happy right now. People are talking about quitting the game, uninstalling it. And you know, I'm sure the game is seeing a lot of people online right now because people are trying to give it a chance. People are exploring the patch, seeing what it has to offer. It's a brand new season, so I'm sure new players are jumping on the game. Old players are getting back on the game that may have not been playing it before, and the players that already were are at least trying to give it a chance. So the numbers may not reflect the negativity that people are expressing right now, but I think with more time, the numbers will obviously diminish and fall off if things aren't fixed soon. And yeah, I tried very hard to make this video. I jotted down a bunch of notes and stuff because I was having such a hard time like organizing my thoughts and articulating myself, and I wanted to get this out a lot sooner, but there was so much that I wanted to say and address. I'm sure I probably forgot a lot of stuff because I know like there's a lot of like counterpoints and arguments that I would like to address, and I'm sure that I forgot about, and I'm sure some of you guys are going to bring up some great things in the comment section down below that I'm more than welcome to have conversations about. But it doesn't look good, and I've been down this road before with Dragon Ball FighterZ, and I tried to be optimistic, and I lied to myself before about, you know, the potential the game still had, and you know, the things that they could do to improve it and whatnot. But at the end of the day, it's looking like they are standing 10 toes down on their aggressive philosophy with the game. It's going in a very specific direction, and if you don't like it, your options are kind of to just suck it up and play through it if you're somebody who depends on this for a living, whether that's as a competitor, a content creator, whatever, or to just drop the game. And if you're a casual player who just plays the game for fun and with your friends or online, you don't really have anything to lose by just dropping the game other than like, damn, this was my favorite game or my favorite franchise and I don't really like it anymore, which does suck. I get it, but it's either suck it up and deal with it, try to find a way to enjoy the game, or stop playing. We can continue to make our voices heard. You know what I'm saying? People are, like I said, review bombing the game, dozens and dozens, hundreds of tweets. But every stream I watch, everyone looks miserable, sounds miserable. I'm seeing no positive tweets. The game's getting review bombed on Steam, and it's been tweeted out by other like big news pages on Twitter how the community is reacting in response to this patch. And it's been so overwhelmingly negative that I can't imagine that they do nothing, but I just don't know what they will do in response to this in order to like kind of rectify it, because it doesn't seem like really anyone is happy. So yeah. Now, I don't want to end this video without trying to be a bit constructive myself. I say myself, but really I want to take a look at one final tweet to end off with some constructive criticism for the game, right? There's a very, very good tweet that I saw from a player named Gosane, who you should be familiar with, very strong player from the UK. And let's go ahead and read it together, because he did a great job of articulating himself and talking about things that he wanted to see. So, with the amount of justified criticism and negativity surrounding this patch, I don't know if they'll be willing to even read this, but why not? Individual character balance aside, and arguably a general consensus of obstructive constructive feedback, here's my Tekken 8 wish list. So, actually better yet, let me open these up in a new tab and zoom into them a little bit more. So he starts off by saying, it's never going to happen, but just revert back to season 1, focus on character balance, and stop attempting to homogenize the whole cast. And like I said, I honestly think this would be ideal. The ideal direction at this point would be if they just completely and utterly scrap season 2, go back to season 1 and start over. But like I said, with the amount of money, power, time, effort, energy, whatever that went into crafting this, that's just very unrealistic. So like you said, it's never going to happen, but I think starting completely over would probably be the most ideal situation. But moving on, it says, please do not, and I repeat, do not listen to the requests of increasing HP. You're going to undermine poking even more than it is right now. Game has already lost its identity with this patch, and doing that will just confirm it. I agree. Oki needs to be reverted. Please stop trying to force a player to have their hand held through every interaction. For example, they added auto back roll to this game in this patch. No skill expression and lack of creativity. Deleting legacy mechanics doesn't do any favors for anyone. That goes for the key charge stuff. That goes for the Oki. That goes for a lot of things, because like we have established before in previous videos, sometimes they see a character do something, and instead of addressing it for that character in particular, they change the entire game. Again, most notoriously, when they changed the jump over stuff in Tekken 7 because of Akuma, and then Akuma was able to do it anyway after they took it away from every other character. In previous iterations, you could sacrifice damage in order to go for an Oki mix. In this game, even max damage combos and wall combos give insane Oki. The round ends after 3 interactions, for example, Ling combo into heat burst at wall, wall combo into mix. There needs to be some risk or some sort of sacrifice if opting for better positioning for Oki, for better Oki. And in my opinion, I think risk reward is just very extremely skewed in this game anyway, where you get really high rewards for very little risk. And in my opinion, that is just unhealthy for the game. It's a big reason why I stopped playing Dragon Ball FighterZ. Punishes into Sans transition 50-50 mix up with every character. There's no such thing as signature archetypes / identities in this game anymore. Agreed. Artificial sense of depth, adding in individual mechanics and installs. Seems like the core concept of movement mind games in general are worthless. Bloating the game even more with unnecessary string mix-ups. For example, Devil Jin down for 1 extensions. He does not need the mid. There used to be a lot more like depth and complexity there, and more of a mind game being played, but now that he just has the mid option, it's like, okay, well, I don't have to think anymore. You know what I mean? Combo damage needs to be decreased across the board, and I would agree. I've seen a lot of people saying, also I realize my camera's off, but it's probably for the best, so that I'm not blocking any of the text. I've seen people saying that like combos are too long. I'm not mad at anybody who feels that way. I don't mind the length of combos because I think doing combos is really fun, but they could stand to do less damage. But then again, if they're doing less damage for as long as they are, then it probably feels even worse, because it's like I'm doing a 20 hit combo and I'm doing 40% life. So, you know, this one, if you do one, you probably have to do the other. Heat burst tracking still needs to be adjusted. I agree. Same thing goes for heat smashes. Heat smashes and heat bursts, in my opinion, should be way more linear than they currently are. Lateral movement has improved, but the new moves introduced in season 2 still have strong tracking and homing properties that just make the movement improvement feel redundant, which is the same thing I said earlier. Moving on. Heat engagers into full crouch needs to be taken out. Giving characters new moves to fit this current meta, for example, Brian's new full crouch low and Snake Eyes, is too overwhelming for the defender. Yeah, I think most players, especially at high level, would agree that heat engagers were already too strong, or at least the mix-up that you got after heat engager was way too overtuned with the plus 17. Adding in full crouch just made it even worse. And then in order to, you know, increase characters' ability to utilize that, you gave them new moves. But I'm of the belief that it's like, why do we add so many new moves to new characters when we didn't even balance the moves that they already had? You know what I'm saying? It's like, you didn't even finish your plate and you already added more food to it. It just doesn't really make sense to me. Heat smashes should not wall splat, and they definitely shouldn't activate any gimmicks. A lot of people feel this way. I don't. I'm not really mad at this, but if they take it out so that no one's heat smash does it, then I guess it's fair game. New moves have way too many properties that just have crazy option coverage. Jack stands up for 1+2. There's a low crushing mid, plus tracks both ways and deals crazy chip damage. And yeah, they just keep giving characters lots of god moves that just have every property. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, this move is plus on block, it's mid, it's homing, and it's just like, it does a lot of chip damage. It's like, bro, can we pick just like a couple of these properties instead of having just like god moves that just do everything for you? You know what I mean? Reduce chip damage across the board. Yes, sir. A personal bias, but stop trying to change DSS. That yeah, it's a law thing. Yeah. And then the last one, too much visual noise makes the screen just look cluttered. I agree. The flashbang on heat smashes, the red sparks, June's powered up laser takes up too much of the screen. Like every single animation Clive has, it's just a lot of visual clutter, especially now with the new like UI with showing like counter hit and the combo counter and the damage and tornado and all that stuff. It's just a lot. It's just a lot, and I just think that it just kind of, you know, it removes a lot of the visual clarity that made Tekken so easy to follow before. It's getting more and more anime, you know what I mean? And it's just harder to follow now, even as a player. Speaking of noise, so many new hit sounds just make it even more jarring and exhausting to play. Like the new counter hit throw sound, it's kind of, yeah, it is jarring. That's a great word for it. New animations just look downright awkward. This is something that I forgot to mention, but I agree. Like as of Santa's new move, like some of the new move animations, they just look weird. It looks NRS-esque, which is very odd because like NRS animations already get criticized, but having a move that looks like an NRS move in Tekken, even weirder. And we need transparency on who's actually testing and approving these decisions. I don't know if that's realistic, because then if we know who's doing that, those people are just going to get hate from the people who are far less respectful and just have less tact. So I don't really know how I feel about that. I kind of off rip don't agree with that, but I understand where it's coming from. But yeah, I agree with a lot of what he said here. I do think, I mean, obviously I made it known what I agreed and what I didn't agree with and everything like that. But yeah, man, so that is that. And I think that's the note I want to end on. I don't want to give up all hope for this game, but they got a lot of work to do. They got a lot of work to do. I'm not happy. I don't really know anyone who is. It's very disappointing to see, and I feel like I'm just going through my Dragon Ball Fighter situation all over again. So yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Hit this video with a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you haven't already so you can stay tuned for all the awesome content I bring you. With all that being said, that's pretty much all I have today. And remember, nothing could happen to you swing the bat. Later.